Hello, learners. Hope you are keeping well. Our grade 9 lesson today is dealing with development issues, all right, with special focus on reasons for difference in development. Okay, why is development not the same in different parts of the world? What are the reasons? Okay, so let's get going. Now, in this lesson, as stipulated for the curriculum, we are going to look for reasons for difference in development, and we're going to focus on historical factors such as colonialism. Okay, we're going to look at trade, we're going to look at the imbalance and unfair trade and how it actually causes difference in development. We're also going to look at technology and industrialization with an S. Okay, right. And we're also going to look at health and welfare. Okay, and education and political stability. Don't worry about these big words, grade 9s. We will simplify them as we go through the lesson. Okay, so let's get going. All right. And I'm not going. Okay, I do apologize for that. All right, so let's look at firstly the concepts of more economic developed country, okay, and a less economically developed country. I'm going to bring in another concept also that has come over the last few years or a little more time, and we will talk about all this. All right, let's start off with the one more economically developed countries. All right, MEDCs. All right, okay. Now let's look at it. What is this MEDC? A term referring to a country are also called developed and highly industrialized, and I'll move my head, countries in which the most of the people have access to healthcare and education. Okay, I'm stuttering a bit today, so let me repeat that. All right, is a country which is developed, highly industrialized, all right, in which most people have access to healthcare and education. I'm doing much better now. Let me have a sip of water also so I can go forward. So it's highly industrialized. Almost all people, 99% or more, have education, they have healthcare, they have all these facilities available to them. And what happens now is that includes most of Europe, North America, even parts of Latin America, East Asia. There's different parts, okay, where this is considered MEDC, most economically developed countries. All right. And if we look at the world map, learners, all right, we would find that we use this person known as Brandt, North-South divide line. Okay. And if we use that line as indicated here by Mr. Brandt, okay, we will actually find that most of these MEDCs, I'm going to use a short term now, you know what it is found in the north of this line, or generally in the northern hemisphere, right, beside the Australasia down here, and maybe little parts of these areas, you understand, but most of them are found in the northern hemisphere. Okay, beside Australasia. So most are found on the north of Brandt's north-south divide and generally in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so let's go on. Then we talk about less economically developed countries, LEDC. Okay, now these are low-income countries. Remember, it doesn't mean there's not rich people in the area. All right, there are rich people there also, but there's not many. Generally, the average is low income, right? And they have severe structural impediments. That means obstacles in terms of structure, infrastructure, etc. All right, it's not the best, okay, in terms of your education systems and things, all right, to sustainable development. Okay, sustainable development, you know already, having enough resources for the future, etc. Many of them are selling their raw materials in order to make some money. You understand? And of course, if they process it and sell less raw materials, they'll have raw materials for the longer period of time. Okay, and also they'll be selling goods at a much higher price. Okay, so their production of goods, etc., is far lower. Okay, so they are very vulnerable or at high risk for economic and environmental shocks. All right, so if we look at it, when we talk about economic, okay, we're talking about a situation where suddenly there's an economic crisis in the world. All right, they feel it the most. Okay, for anything, right? They feel it the most. The income or storage of income is limited. Like when COVID hit, you understand, the LEDC countries suffered the most. They couldn't, I mean, they did their best to look after the populations, but compared to the United States, which was putting out trillions and trillions of dollars, etc., to look after the people, these people don't. If there's a hurricane or tornado, or a hurricane, also no tropical cyclone, or massive floods, etc., they suffer a lot. They don't have the necessary income, you understand, infrastructure to look after their people, right? Generally, they have low levels of human assets, low levels. You understand, in terms of skill, in terms of financial, etc. So they can't really, go out of the way like the developed or the MEDCs that would spend about money, and in the income of the people are much higher, that they can even look after themselves. Many people experience poverty, death, suffering when these huge tragedies hit. Okay, includes most of Africa, Indian subcontinent, parts of Latin America, and generally more towards the Northern Hemisphere, more towards the Northern Hemisphere. All right, then a point to note, all right, please learners, very important, because not everyone is LEDC or everyone is MEDC. There is something else that have popped up now, these industrial giants, all right, also, although they still have poverty and not everybody is educated, but they're coming up. So we call them the newly industrialized countries, the NICs, newly industrialized countries. They are countries whose economy has not yet reached the MEDCs. They're not in that most economically or more economically developed countries. But on the other hand, they have moved past the LED stage. So they're not less economically developed, and neither they're in the category of more. They're sort of in between, heading towards the MEDC. And they are known as the newly industrialized countries. Now, examples like this, various ones: China, Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, Malaysia, China, all right, India, Thailand. All economies are coming up well, you understand? And South Africa is one of them. If you look at it here, right, just to make this clearer, learners, let's look at the LEDC like Kenya. You'll notice a difference, all right? Look at the primary activities of Kenya. Most of the people, and you've done your previous lesson, most of the people are in primary activities. They're employed in primary activities, all right? Look at an MEDC. Primary activities for UK is 3% employment. Doesn't mean they're not producing enough. They're producing more than enough. But there's technology, there's machines, there's everything doing the job. You need less people there, but you need people to design stuff and to offer services, etc. So that is why when you look at the tertiary activities of Kenya, it's 15%. You look at the tertiary activities of the United Kingdom, it's massive difference, 79%, which is huge. You understand difference? Because there it's services, it's education, it's skills, it's all those things coming up. You understand? Because they're highly industrialized. They focus on that. You understand? Okay, compared to that, even the secondary activities are not that small like this, but more emphasis is based on that tertiary activities. All right. Now I want to bring in Malaysia, which is a newly industrialized country. If I look at it here, tertiary activities 45%, secondary activities 40%, primary activities 15%. It's not in this, you understand? Okay, it's not in this category. Okay, where primary activities is 74-15. Okay, but neither is it here. The tertiary activities have come up. It's not as low as Kenya, but it's not as large as the United Kingdom. Can you see it? It's sort of in between, because they are now the new industrialized countries. They're moving forward now. They're developing. And in the future, most probably they may reach the United Kingdom. So we have these three categories. You understand? We can't just roughly put them into LEDC and MEDC. We must know that there are countries that are moving forward that are no more in the LEDC, but now are NICs. Okay, right, let's go on. Now, when I look at this, of course, our focus is going to be on MEDC and LEDC. Okay, when we look at that, all right, and you can see the two worlds here. Eh? This is MEDC, highly industrialized, developed tertiary activities, and these guys sitting here. Can you see the different infrastructure, etc.? Okay, the buildings, whatever, is very different. You understand? There's a big two different worlds. So the MEDC versus the LEDC. So just a list, which I think you've worked out already, okay? When you did GDP, etc. You know, GDP is high. That's a gross domestic product. Is high in the MEDC, low in the LEDC. They don't have such a big output. They're selling raw materials. They're getting less money, or they're producing less because it's a GDP, right? Producing less in their country, all right, in terms of goods, etc. So the LEDC will be low. The gross national product, again, will be high for the MEDC, low for the LEDC, all right, because that includes them production inside and outside of the country. You understand? By citizens of that country. So they don't have production outside. They don't have these huge multi-corporations like Ford, etc., which has companies throughout the world. You understand? Their production is lower. So it'll be low. Per capita income, you know, the average income per person, obviously will be higher in the MEDC compared to the LEDC. Their salaries are much greater on average. The employment rate, all right, this would be unemployment rather. Unemployment in the LEDCs are higher. People don't have so many jobs because if you're not producing you're not highly industrialized with massive tertiary activities, etc., you'll find that formal employment, you understand, or unemployment rather, is high in the LEDCs. Many people without jobs. You understand? In South Africa, it's sitting between 20 to 30%. Averages are changing all the time of unemployment. And South Africa is an NIC. Imagine those LEDC countries. Okay. Employment, large number in the tertiary sector for the MEDC, as I showed you in that graph. All right. And here for the LEDC, large number in the primary sector. Then birth rate is low in the MEDC, it's high in the LEDC, because in the developed or the MEDC countries, they highly industrialized, developed. There's focus on careers, etc. Okay, not so much on children that they have, not that they don't look after their children, obviously, but there's more emphasis on all that and having children that they can manage. Whereas in many occasions, it's high in the LEDC, but sometimes it's subsistence. They use the children as, family labor in the farms. Okay, there's various cultural aspects, etc. And the lack of, not means they're not intelligent, lack of proper education, etc., would make it high. Of course, death rate is low in the MEDC and it's high in the LEDC. In the MEDCs, they have good medical conditions, they earn good salaries, they can pay for their health, they eat healthy. LEDCs, far less. You understand? So they don't have full medical care for everybody. Quality of medical care, unfortunately, for many people, it's not as good. You understand? For people who can afford it in the LEDC, they can get it. So the death rate will be higher in the LEDC. Life expectancy, because of all the health and the quality of life, etc. In MEDCs, they expect to live longer than the LEDCs, which is low. Infant mortality is also self-explanatory, learners. It's low in the MEDC. Infants dying, babies die, because majority of them got proper conditions there. They had salaries they can look after. If there's any illnesses, whatever, they can sort it out. So infants, there's lower rate of death than the LEDC. Literacy rate, it's obvious also in the MEDCs, because of all the facilities, the income, you understand, most people are literate. They can read, write, arithmetic, etc., compared to the LEDCs, where the conditions are much more of a lower quality, not for everybody, but people can't have access to it, they can't afford it, etc. The Human Development Index, as you've done in the past, all right, the HDI, okay, it's definitely a higher quality in the MEDCs, all right, because they have the money. You understand, the GNP is high, the average income is high, so they can afford the human quality of life, all right, where it's low in the LEDCs. Environmental problems, they have more money to fit into it. All right, they have developing, not that they don't give us environmental problems. Due to economic acceleration, they also create problems, but it's higher in the LEDCs because certain procedures, certain laws are relaxed in terms of pollution, etc., in order to encourage investment. Sometimes they overlook so many things. So environmental population problems is high in the LEDCs. Population growth rate, obviously, if they in the MEDCs, they don't have as many children in terms of birth rates, etc. So the growth rate is lower, whereas in the LEDC, there's no control or limited control, right? Sorry, not no control, limited control in terms of various factors I mentioned, and it's higher there. The level of urbanization is high in the MEDCs and low in the LEDCs. It's higher in the MEDCs, right? Most people are urbanized. The percentage of people in the MEDCs living in urban areas is higher because you don't need so many people in the rural areas. It's all mechanization. Employment is not needed so much, using machines. Whereas in the LEDCs, the level of urbanization is lower. The high percentage of people are still in the rural areas. All right, remember I said level of urbanization, okay? Not rate, etc., level. Okay, so some of the differences between the two. All right, now learners, let's look at our reasons for the difference in development. All right, as stipulated by the curriculum. All right, There are various factors that we must remember that exist. We are focusing on the few that are stipulated. The first one, historical factor, and the big one here is colonialism. Okay, what is colonialism? It's an act of one nation controlling another for economic gain. They want economic, they politically control them also. They rule the country, but the main aim is economic. They want to make money. Example, colonialism was Great Britain control over South Africa. South Africa was actually run by the United Kingdom or Great Britain, etc., that ran it. All right, that time it was known as the United Kingdom or the British Empire that ruled over South Africa. Okay, and what was there, this thing? It generally had a negative impact on the country that was colonized rather, not colonized, colonized, all right? Because what did the colonialists do? They exploited the colonized countries for raw materials. They took the precious raw materials from the country, okay? They took it at practically low rates or no rates, okay? And then what did they do? They process these raw materials in their own countries. And in their own countries, what they did? They created employment for the people, skills for the people. Put it, and there's more employment, more skills, more production, more processing. It led to the development of their countries. Okay, and then what happened to the colonized countries? There was limited development, you understand, in those countries. So what did they do after that? They sold the processed goods to the colonized countries at much higher profits. You understand? At much higher profits. All right, that was not good. It was unfair. Okay, so what happened? They exploit the colonized countries, example, cheap labor. That's what they look for. They didn't do much skills development because they brought their own people from the colonized or the colonialism countries to come and do the job here. They basically used the local people, not that they were not intelligent, but they were not given the opportunities. So it was cheap labor, limited skills, unless there was a need. Sometimes because maybe they couldn't get somebody, that's when they developed the locals, not because they wanted to with great enthusiasm. Okay, and general education was limited. You understand? There was not much education given to people, so restricted development. Okay, and in a significant number of instances, the locals were treated as slaves. Okay, and not all cases, but in significant number of cases, as these old pictures show you here. Okay, old pictures show you. It's not a very good image. Okay, so historical factors were negative for development for the colonized country, but positive for the country that was colonizing. Okay, it was positive. They got the raw materials at practically nothing, no low rates. They produced, the countries developed. Okay, right, let's go on. Then trade. Okay, this is buying and selling of goods. Now, I want to just go over to this slide first. All right, trade is the buying or selling of goods and services between different people or different countries, where you buy and sell goods or services. You understand? Processed goods, raw materials, services, etc. Okay, that's trade. Then we have a concept known as unfair trade. Okay, unfair trade is any trade practice that provides an unfair advantage to one party. So if two countries are trading, one gets the unfair advantage. Example, a country pays another country a very low price for its raw materials, especially an MEDC. Okay, they say to the poorer country, listen, I know you sell us this at maybe R1,000,000 a ton, but the rate is 5 million rand a ton. Okay, and the poor country then, or the LEDC then say, but you know what? It's 5 million rand, and the MEDC says, take it or leave it. So it's because they come from an advantage, and the LEDC needs the money. Can you see? This is unfair trade. Not the correct prices are given, but prices that are cheaper, that are offered to the people. Out of desperation, people take it. Then we have a word, trade imbalance. When a country is spending more money on imports than exports. What are imports? When we buy goods from other countries. Exports, when we sell goods to other countries. So if we buy more from other countries and we sell less to other countries, means more money is going out, less money is coming in. And of course, it's an imbalance, trade imbalance, a negative trade imbalance. You understand? It's negative. It's not good for the country. Okay. So let's get back to the other slide. You know what's trade. You know all that. Let's look at some characteristics. All right. Trade across countries are not equal. They're not equal. The LEDCs have the negative impact of most. Approximately half of the world's trade takes place between 8 countries, or 8 MEDC countries. They're known as the G8. It's United States, Great Britain, Germany. You understand? Those big dealers, more than half of the world's trade take there. Between those countries, it's ridiculous in terms of how many countries there are in the world, eh? And few countries dominate. All right. See the LEDCs, the less economically developed countries, mainly export raw materials, which are sold at low prices. Can you see it? Not that they don't export or sell processed goods, but it's far less than the actual processed goods. So imagine you're selling your raw materials at lower price. If you process more, you sell it at high price. Unfortunately, this is the LEDC's situation. With the MEDCs, they buy the raw materials, process it, and sell it at high prices. Not if they need the raw materials. Can you see it? Right, they make far more money. Okay, they dominate the trade across the world. You understand? They dominate it. And another thing is they can afford lower prices if there is competition. This is competition, learners. Competition, not completion, eh? Competition. If there's competition, I do complain. Don't tell your English teachers, please, eh? They may get me fired. Okay, but competition, if there's competition, learners, all right? And you find many companies are there, and the LEDC companies are there also. They don't have the subsidies from government. They don't have the market at home to have sold enough. So they can't really drop their prices much. But the MEDCs who have enough finances already, they can play around with the prices. So if it was 1,000 Rand for the item, and the LEDCs maybe can drop it to 998, the MEDCs can drop it to 950. You can't match them. So the trade, they dominate the trade. All right. So what happens? It results in development of the MEDCs, increase in employment, skills development, development in infrastructure, etc., power lines, communications, transport networks, and the LEDCs remain poor with low salaries and not much employment, less taxes for government to improve facilities and infrastructure, less foreign exchange. You understand? Because we're selling more raw materials, the LEDCs, less money is coming in. Therefore, limited development, learners, limited development. Look at this. I want you to see this. What do we, South Africa, export? Can you see? If you look at this, all right, top 10 export products. Look at this. All right. We export here. What we sell to the United Kingdom. Look at this, learners. Look at this. It's huge. All right. Some accessories, but compared to this, can you see this? which is 44%. All right. It's our raw materials. Can you see it? How much raw? And South Africa now is a new industrialized country. It's not even an LEDC. You understand? And look at the amount of raw materials. Imagine many of those LEDC countries, how huge it is. Okay, that we even in NIC still exporting such huge amounts. Look at this, learners. I want to focus on this. And you can see trade with Africa, Europe's trade. And of course, Europe is the blue, all right? And you look at this manufactured machinery and vehicles. Look at the blue compared to the green. It's massive, massive difference. Can you see it? That they sell us manufactured goods. Can you see it? Manufactured. More than us, all right? Massive difference between us and them. Okay, they sell that processed goods to us. And that's just where we need to look at these things. You understand? That is why they're growing and growing in power, all right? And Africa struggles a bit. Not that we don't have the intelligence, etc., but so many factors like colonialism, etc., it showed its hand throughout the years. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go on. Let's look at the next factor, technology and industrialization. All right, let's look at what it is first and then look at how it affects development. Technology is the skills, methods, and processes used to achieve goals. All the skills. Example, we use technology to produce goods and services. And the efficient technology, the more technology, the better the quality of goods, etc., the faster the production. You understand? Okay? So that is technology. Industrialization is the process by which an economy is transformed from primary agriculture to one that is based on industrial goods. So the MEDCs, you understand? There now the bulk of it is from the secondary and tertiary activities. Primary activity, including labor, is much less. You understand? Because now they're producing, you understand, and they're selling. That's industrialization. Not that the LEDCs don't have industrialization, they do, but it's far less. They're poor in industrialization. Okay, so technology encourages industrialization, resulting in development. Because the more technology you have produced, the more machines are being created, etc., the more production in the country. So the greater the industrialization. Can you see how they linked? Right. It allows for faster production and better quality products because we're improving on our machinery, our electronics each time. You understand? To determine things. If available and properly used, it results in rapid industrialization. Meaning if all those machines and technology is used properly and we create more stuff, you understand, in terms of machines, and as I said, electronics, in the past, people used to make those iron steel pipes to run things, and you need certain amount of pressure. They should physically test the pipe and put pressure in it to see if it bursts. Now the computer does it. And all you have to do is, in the end, is say, that's the dimensions and that's the specifics. Let's just create the pipe. All right. LEDs have limited expertise and technology. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent. You understand? They have limited. And this results in limited industrialization. All right. The skills, etc. Please, again, not intelligence, it's skills. They haven't had the skills. You understand? And therefore focusing more on the primary sector. MEDs has the expertise and technology. They're focusing more on the secondary and tertiary sector, especially the tertiary sector, where the technology, etc., has been created, the services in terms of institutions, etc., study centers where these things are being made. You can see this That's big, eh? The computers are all making the car. You press button and the computers make the car. Isn't that technology brilliant? All right. It's made quicker, it's made more accurate. Not that people are not, but machines are working with dimensions and it's already set. Whereas this is quite a common sight in LEDCs. All right, people doing farming with primitive equipment, etc. Not that they're not intelligent; they could be far more intelligent than other people, but they lack the skills, etc., and opportunities. Okay. Next one is health and welfare. Okay, in this case also, what is health? Health is a person's mental and physical condition. Remember that. Many people think health is just how, you know, you got the flu, you bad health. You understand? It's also mental, eh? People's mindset, sicknesses there. You understand? Psychological. So it's both, eh? What's welfare? It includes health, happiness, and fortunes of a person or group. You understand? Their welfare is better if they can afford things, etc. Therefore, they're happier. Not that you only need to afford, but your health is good. You understand? That is your welfare. And this plays a big part in development also. Okay. Okay, a country's health and welfare will depend on various factors. Example, health facilities, social services, health facilities like hospital, social service, social workers, psychologists, infrastructure like electricity, transport, education, because you're highly educated or better quality educations, more opportunities for skills, etc. Employment, if all these industries are coming out in MEDCs, there's more employment. And nutritious diet, that's food security, where you have enough food to feed the people of the country, nutritious food. You understand, for them to live a healthy and productive life. Not just food. If we eat potatoes every day, we're never going to have the best health. We need the proteins, etc. And the general basic needs. That's what we need also. The basic needs of the people. Shelter, clothing, you understand, sanitation, all that. So good health and welfare will improve development. Why? If people are healthy and a good mindset, etc., they will be more productive. They will produce more. You understand? They'll be more creative, therefore resulting in development. Less money spent on health and welfare services because the people are more healthy, more taxes used for development of other aspects, more skilled labor available. You understand? Because the welfare, they have a good quality of life. They send their children to schools, which then develop their skills, etc. All right. So look at this overall. MEDCs, good health, welfare, allowing for more development. LEDCs, limited health and welfare facilities, which slows development. Doesn't mean there's no development, but it slows development. I just put this in, all right, to show all these things take into health and welfare. Eh? Your work, your relationships with people, your home, your food, all these things come in. Eh? All right, seems more like an hello lesson there. Then education, very important. Not just education that you finish your grade 12, the tertiary education, universities, whatever. Remember, they're teaching skills that are going to be used. You understand? Like this guy is here, right? The aeronautical engineer is studying, and his friend now is also working on the cars, creating stuff. You understand? So what is education? Defined as the process of gaining knowledge, example, attending school, university, college. So you gain the knowledge and skills, I like to add that word, that will let you create, creative, be more productive, etc. So again, we say technology encourages industrialization and development. But in order to get those people creating it like these two young men down here, you understand, they need to be educated. That's how they're going to become mechanical, aeronautical engineers, etc. That's how they're going to do it, through education, which then creates more development. In order to have good technology, we need an effective education system with the main focus on skills development. Example, our engineers at the bottom or scientists. All right, can you see it? MEDCs have far more effective education systems compared to the LEDCs. All right, and the number of people educated, therefore their development will be higher each time we're relating it to development. Can you see that? Theirs will be far more higher. Let's take the other point now, political stability. And what is this? We've taken it this way and let's look at it. Okay, what is politically stable? A country that is well governed. Politically unstable. A country not run well by government. Can you see it? So unstable, negative, stable, positive. And of course, if a government runs a country well, there will be more development because you got people in there, all right, that want to work, support government. There's more money in the right places like education, skills, basic needs for the people. There's not much corruption, all right? So the country will have government longevity. You find these governments don't change quickly when they're stable. You find they cover a few years, etc., that they are in power or government. Whereas in an unstable one, governments can change regularly. And we do have situations where we have dictatorship, etc., in some countries where there's one president over so many years, you understand, and there's no real democracy. They can go on for same president for maybe 20 or 30 years and may not be chosen by the people, okay? There's no or limited corruption, and finances are used for the benefit of the country and the people. Unfortunately, this is one of the characteristics here in unstable, generally corruption and finances are mismanaged. Can you see it? How can we develop if our finances are not used properly for the people? Here, people are generally happy and support government. I have to say generally, you know, elections and people have different things and you get some people have different ideas, but generally they're happy. People are generally unhappy and do not support government, unstable. So how can you get development if you're not being supported? You understand? Very little or no political unrest or protests. You will get your protests, etc. All right, but little, yeah, political unrest and protests against government are common. Can you see this? All right, it's common in these countries where government is not ruling. You understand? High productivity and development. If you've got a happy population where the money is spent in the most important areas, upliftment of education, development of industries, infrastructure, therefore the productivity will be good. Yeah, the productivity is generally low productivity and development. Now, if you look at a country that's stable, okay, you will find that many people want to invest in that country. They want money, foreign money comes in, dollars come in, etc. Because people say that's a stable country. You understand? We can put our businesses there and we can make money and we know suddenly the country won't take our businesses over. You understand? So we'll invest there. But where it is not, you understand, stable, it discourages. What if the government then decides to take our companies over? We're not going to take a chance. All right. Stable, unstable. Now, it doesn't mean one thing we need to look at, that MEDCs are the only stable countries. No, not necessarily. There are NICs which are coming through that can show stability because they are improving. Remember, people are developing. Okay, so it's not all. Yes, in many cases, you find that the MEDCs are in the larger percentage stable, but doesn't mean the LEDCs and the NICs are not stable also. They could be stable, and that is why they're moving out of those categories and moving more towards MEDCs. Okay. Now, you know, as always, we must have some activity. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. We see these learners. enjoying themselves learning. They've got laptops, etc. They are learning, right? So they seem to have better facilities. Doesn't mean our young people here are not enjoying themselves. They look so eager to learn. You understand? They've got little books in front of them. You can see they are also brilliant young people. But unfortunately, the conditions are different in both sides. Eh? They're different. You can see the facilities here and the facilities there are very different. Already you can start working in your mind. Remember, it doesn't mean all people in the LEDCs or whatever will have these conditions, or the NICs, etc., will have these conditions. There will be good schools. But in terms of percentage, you will find there's a bigger percentage of this situation happening compared to the MEDCs, all right, which hardly have these situations. The MEDCs, most people are this way, better facilities, etc. Okay, so we can see this is dealing with education, all right? So don't tell, Mr. Dave told us that LEDCs have in terms of facilities, they lack. I saw this private school in the LEDCs, brilliant. Yes, they are. You understand? Okay, but facilities are a problem. Okay, so let's look at this, learners. Identify the factor illustrated by the picture that affects development. You know already. It's dealing with education. Can you see it? I've seen it there. Match pictures A and B with the concepts LEDC and MEDC. Remember, as I said, they could be good institutions, but if you look at these two pictures, where is quality of education a challenge? Okay, and if you look at this, I would match that with the LEDC, and I would match that with the MEDC. Explain how this factor in question 1 affects the development of a country. Now you've studied that. All right. Remember, it can be both ways, can be positive and negative. Good quality education will result in more skills for the people. Okay, they will be designing more, they will be more productive. You understand? Not that they're more intelligent than the other, but they'll be more productive. They'll have the skills. Production will increase. More development. You understand? The quality of life will be better. Can you see all those factors coming in? That's what you would discuss down here. Okay? And therefore, creating more development there. Whereas the LEDCs on the I wouldn't now use the word LEDCs, but where the quality of education is a challenge, it's not the best. You understand? Again, I'm emphasizing, doesn't mean the people are not intelligent. Please, there's a difference between intelligence and quality of education given to people is low, then people won't pick up so much skills. You understand? They won't be as economically productive. Okay? And therefore, you will find production will be less, new technology will be less in the country. They'll have to get people from the outside sometimes to even work, which will slow down development. All right. Then I got one more here. Describe the impact of technology on industrialization. I know it's a bit of a repeat, but if there's technology advancements in the country, then industrialization will be even greater and faster, and the quality of products will be good. Because as I told you, you create various innovations, create a machinery that's doing the job. It's more accurate, it's faster. You understand? But you need technology for that. Okay, technology will make industrialization faster. Okay, creating new machines as our aeronautical engineer or mechanical engineer, designing cars, getting production. Some people are designing machines, computer machines that will do the job. As I showed you, those computer hands just come and they fit everything together. You just press a button and technology takes over. You understand? And that should be the basis of your answers. Okay, in terms of that. You can see, learners, these questions are asked in different ways. Okay? But you will take your answers or your notes and your content and apply it to it. All your things are there. Yes, you'll have to think slightly out of the box, but the answers are there. Okay, it's about you learning your work properly, meaning that you will be able to apply it because you understand your work. And practicing with a paper is so important. Hey, I got one more, learners. I put this in here, another activity. And here I want to show you that how you just take your notes. Okay, I put your notes just after this activity. I'll show you how you take your notes, tweak it a bit, and you got the answers. It's nothing really difficult if you study properly. You understand? Okay? Study smartly. Eh? So let's look at this. We see Africa there, we see Asia with India at the bottom, and we see here, okay, this one is the British grab bag, the German grab bag, the Russian grab bag. All right, this shows you colonialization or colonialism. All right, that's happening here. As grabbing of British is grabbing of Africa, etc. Germany also. Yeah, the Russians are going through Asia, taking over countries. Okay, that is the case that happened. So it gives you an idea. You already know something about colonialism. All right, let's work with this. It goes from a little easy to more difficult, but it also gives you an idea of the concept so you'll be able to apply. So look at this. Define the concept colonialism. I want to show you. All right? Can you see? State is an act of one nation controlling another for economic gain. All right, economic gain. Hey, can you see it? That's your straight definition. You put it one or two things. If one country is controlling another country for economic gain, what's the difference? Okay, it still says nation or country. So we can change the words a bit. It's fine. As long as you bring out the important things. Control of one on another country, etc. And the other one is economic gain. Is so important. Eh? All right. Now, let's go to the next one. Can you see? I'm showing you here. Explain the negative impact of colonialism on colonized countries. Now, I missed an important word. All right. The important word is social. Can you see it? Social impact. All right. Watch out. It's the impact on the people. Remember, you got economic impact on the economy. Although they all are linked, watch out for this. And it's also dealing of colonialism on the colonized country, the country that was taken over. Can you see the words? In geography, watch out for the words. Very, very important. Eh? Right, the social impact. I want to go back to these notes, and then you'll see that you may have to add other things. All right. The impact was negative. Okay. Now look at this. It explored to colonize countries. So one of it is cheap labor, less money they earned in terms of that for the people themselves. It can be a social impact. All right. Restricted education. Can you see it? They weren't given the best education. All right. So the quality of life wasn't good. As I say, some of them were treated as slaves. Okay. Many of them. So because they didn't earn well, all right, they couldn't afford proper facilities like health, houses. Can you see how we're relating it now? All right, it's social. Okay, so the quality of life was lower. You understand? All the basic needs, they struggled. They had very low quality basic needs. And the factors of using them as slaves, that was also a low quality of life. Can you see? So the emphasis here is on the people and their quality of life. So employment, you understand, has impacts on the social life. Less money, you understand, or unemployed, less money, which has a dent on your quality of life. Can you see how we're using it, learners? We're taking the notes and working it around to suit the answer. okay, which speaks about social. Now watch this one. Explain the negative economic impact on the colonized country. All right, and let's go back to our note, learners. Can you see? They exploited the colonized countries of their raw materials. They took it at low prices. The country, or sometimes no prices, let's put it that way. So the country didn't benefit much, right? They processed the raw materials and sold it back to these people at much higher profits. They paid more for it, all right? Employment can come in again. Low salaries, which is economic. You understand? Also, the fact is that they did not increase their production. People, colonialists were basically taking away the raw materials and developing their country. So there was less technology development, less infrastructure development in the colonized countries, less production. Can you see it? All these factors come together that would have created a problem, all right, in those colonized countries, affecting economic development, less taxes collected by government. You understand? Because of these issues. Can you see how we can answer all that? All right. Let's go back. Hey, come on. Right. This is something to think about. All right. A general comment. Let's see. That's why I put my friend here. Countries that are colonized, that colonized are MEDCs. Colonized countries are LEDCs. All right. Remember that countries that colonized are MEDCs. Okay, now, and colonized countries are LEDCs. Okay, in general, obviously. Explain this. All right. So I just phrased it differently. It's something to think about. So we're saying the MEDCs were the ones that colonize other countries. All right? Why? Okay, why are they MEDCs? Because they took the materials, the raw materials, they took it to their countries, they had skills development, their production increased, their infrastructure increased. You understand? Their level of living, average per capita income, all was increasing all the time. So they became highly industrialized and highly developed. But what happened to the LEDCs on the other hand? All right, they were limited in their development. You understand? Because the raw materials were taken out, they were colonized. You understand? So even after the colonialism happened and they got the independence, okay, there were so many things that lacked: infrastructure, skills development, etc. Okay, they had to undo all that damage. So they are developing at the moment, and some of them have become NICs, etc. But they still need to develop and overcome the injustices, etc., of their past. Can you see how we can work around it? A little bit of history here too, eh? Can you see it's found in geography? All right, I hope this has brought a clearer idea of the factors that affect development. Please note again, learners, there are more factors that affect development than what we've discussed. Okay, so you may come across others and say, but why wasn't that included? We can't do everything. Otherwise, you're going to spend 1 year on this alone. We do the ones that are stipulated by the curriculum, what the curriculum tells us to do. Okay, learners, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. All the best. Goodbye.